Hi there, I'm Logan Medish, and this is High Caliber History. While our country has had official arsenals for almost as long as we've been around, both Springfield and Harper's Ferry were founded when George Washington was president, they didn't always make all of the guns in-house. Often, the government contracted out manufacture of these guns to smaller, independent gunsmiths. Such was the case with the Model 1807/1808 Flintlock Marshall pistols. For this particular order, 7 different contractors produced a total of 1,802 pistols for the United States government. Now, 11 contractors were selected for this, but 4 of them never produced a single gun. Problems with the pistols began almost immediately after they were delivered to the Schuylkill Arsenal. Upon inspection, almost every single one of them was rejected, and the problems weren't confined to just one contractor. They were all guilty of producing and submitting subpar products. Even early on, the government had, quote, mil-spec standards, and these guns just did not measure up. One government official quipped, quote, "It would have been better to have thrown the whole amount of purchase in the river than to have procured it." Nonetheless, the government had indeed purchased them to the tune of $5 a pistol. It's good to know that our tax dollars have always been used wisely. Martin Frey, a gunsmith based in York, Pennsylvania, was one of the 7 ill-fated contractors selected for this delivery of guns. In total, he produced 116 pistols, or 58 pairs. All but 3 of those, however, were rejected. Today, those 3 accepted pistols are all that remain of Frey's short-lived time as a government arms contractor. Now, based on his dismal acceptance rate, it would be easy to assume that Martin Frey was some kind of fly-by-night hack who managed to procure a government contract and was simply hoping for the best. Quite the contrary is true, however, because Martin Frey was actually an accomplished gunsmith. Martin Frey, as we know him, is actually Martin Frey III, and he worked out of his father's shop, which was opened up in 1762 on Beaver Street between Market and King Streets in York, Pennsylvania. Now, Martin Frey Jr. died when Martin Frey III was just 11 years old, so even though he is a second-generation gunsmith, it's unlikely that he actually learned the trade from his father. Nonetheless, he made some beautiful long rifles around the same time that he made his less-than-stellar government contract pistols. So how was it then that an accomplished gunsmith like Martin Frey submitted pistols that were so awful that their acceptance rate was a paltry 2.5%? The answer lies not with Frey himself, but with another man by the name of Tench Coxe. Coxe was appointed as the purveyor of public supplies by President Thomas Jefferson in 1803. The appointment was made at the recommendation of Treasury Secretary Albert Gallatin, who was himself a shareholder in a relatively unsuccessful Pennsylvania arms factory from 1799 until his government appointment in 1801. Coxe was responsible for procuring arms for both the standing army and the state militias. In 1807 and 1808, Congress had passed legislation to arm the militia, providing money, quote, "for the purpose of providing arms and military equipment for the whole body of the militia of the United States, either by purchase or manufacture," end quote. As mentioned at the very beginning, our federal arsenals could not produce all of these guns, and so much of the work was farmed out to smaller arms makers. Coxe contracted with these arms makers and even provided monetary advances when necessary. Coxe was well-intentioned, don't get that wrong. In one of his early notes to the contractors, he said, quote, "The importance of good arms is manifest. The lives of our fellow citizens to whom the use of them is committed depend upon the excellence of these arms." Contemporary accounts indicate that Coxe did have the technical expertise in the design and manufacture of muskets, rifles, pistols, and swords that you would expect from someone in his position. But Tench may have bitten off a bit more than he could chew. Overworked and understaffed, quality control largely went unchecked, unintended though it may have been. In 1810, Coxe fired the inspector in charge of quality control for the arms being acquired, but this would prove to be too little, too late. Letters from 1811 accused Tench Coxe of accepting arms that, quote, were better adapted to kill American soldiers into whose hands they should be put than an enemy. So what exactly was wrong with many of these guns? It was observed that some of the barrels lacked rifling. Some of the rifling only extended 6 inches down the bore from the muzzle. Faulty stocks had been filled with glue and sawdust. The bore diameters did not match the cartridges which were made for the guns, and some of the barrels lacked touch holes, making it impossible to fire them all together. It was in this environment that Frey submitted his pistols for review by Tench Coxe's inspector, where 113 of the 116 were rejected. Now, of those 3 that were accepted and survive today, 2 are in their original flintlock condition, and 1 has been reported to have been converted to percussion ignition at a later time. As an aside, if anyone knows where the percussion-altered gun resides, let me know, because I have yet to see that one. Now, I'm delighted to say that I'm one of the few people alive who has actually handled 2 out of the 3 of Martin Frey's pistols. The first occasion came when one was placed on loan to the NRA museums when I worked there as their firearms specialist. And the second occasion happened in October of 2019 when the other came up for auction in Pennsylvania. On the example available from the auction, the stock bears the mark of Jacob Shue, a known inspector of contract arms from the period. In the photos shown here, notice that the eagle marking on this gun is facing to the left and is over the letter T, while the gun on loan to the NRA museums has the eagle facing to the right and is over the letter P. If you know what the difference signifies, please let me know. Other than that difference, though, the 2 guns are essentially identical in every other way, which is exactly how it was supposed to be for all 116, not just these 3. And none of the condemned pistols have ever surfaced, so if you ever happen to spot one at an auction or a gun show, make sure to bring it home with you, because that would raise the survival rate of these guns by a whopping 0.9%, bringing it up to 3.4%. That's not much, but every previously unknown example that surfaces is a big deal in the world of collectors and historians. So there you have it, a tale as old as time, where private contractors take advantage of the government system and end up costing taxpayers substantial sums of money for subpar goods. As the saying goes, some things never change. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoy the channel and the content here and you think you've got even $1's worth of knowledge out of it, head on over to the Patreon page and become a patron there. We've got a bunch of different levels and some awesome swag that you can get as well. There's a link to it in the description. Thanks and have a great day.